true leader does not see himself as a leader, but becomes one by the quality of his actions and the honesty of his intent. I'm going to repeat that for you. He or she becomes one by the quality of their actions and the honesty of their intent. I can't tell you the amount of mistakes I've made, but people are generally stuck because they know I made the decisions for the right reasons, and I'm sure you've made mistakes. But if they feel you've done it for the right reasons, it's a whole different outcome when things go bad to when they know there was an agenda, when there was a bias, and all the other stuff that goes with it. True leaders are like eagles. They don't flock. You find them one at a time. One of the reasons that, I said recently, Alan Langer was one of the all-time great players I ever coached and champion bloke. But for him, leadership's difficult because he likes to be liked. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all like to be liked. But it's difficult for you to lead when you need to be popular, when you need to be with the group all the time. We all need friends and we need friendships. Leaders need them as well. But you have to understand the difference between the true leaders and the leaders. So for him, coaching is always going to be difficult because it requires a lot of tough decisions, as teaching does. And he'll struggle with those all of his life. And perhaps I give you that little insight because maybe that's things that you struggle with. And I was talking to a teacher this morning, he said sometimes he's a little bit soft. Well, I can tell you there's no bigger softy than me. But I know I do them a disservice when I don't make the right decision and when I don't carry it through and when I give in to my feelings. And I go home and I'm extremely disappointed in myself. And I don't like that feeling because I know I've let them down. I know I should have made the decision, and it's hard on them sometimes, but I know it's going to make them better. And I remember a boy I sacked two of them actually at the Broncos, and he's back playing with me now at the Dragons. He rang me up last year and asked me could he come and play back with me. He said, I need you. He said, you give me guidelines. He said, you keep an eye on me. He said, and you make me more disciplined than what I can be myself. And I thought, at the time when I sacked him, I was more upset than he was. But I knew I had to do that because to keep him any longer was not going to get where he wanted to go. And we'd gone as far as we could. And you have to make those choices. And you've got to realise when they're wasting your time. My friend has a saying, he says, don't start pissing on me boots and tell me it's raining. It's a good line to remember when you're dealing with people. Okay? You don't want to be used up. You don't want them to see, kindness for weakness. Repeat that for you. You don't want them to misunderstand when you're being kind to someone that they see it as a weakness and they start to use you up. That's the one thing I won't tolerate. I'll tolerate a lot of other things in people, but I will not tolerate that. And sometimes, when you make that hard call, it affects you more than anybody else. But you need to make that hard call. In 1996, at the beginning of the season, I said to the Broncos, we're underperforming, a lot of talent, and there was a lot of players there who had been there for a number of years. And I said to them in a general conversation, team meeting, I said, guys, at the end of the season, if we don't get where I think we should go with the amount of talent we have here, I said, some of you will not be here in 1997. Didn't make a big deal about it. Statement was made. I found I was wasting a lot of my time on players that were senior players in the team who should have been more accountable. And, as you know in teaching, the young teachers coming in, they need more of your time than the ones that have been doing it for 10 or 15 years. That's the way it should be. But I found myself spending more time with those that were experienced players than with the young ones coming in. So the end of the season came around, we didn't get where we wanted to go, so I sacked 4 of them. Absolute shock horror. What you doing that for? But I reminded them all, I said, guys, I told you at the beginning of the season, we won the premiership in 1998, 1997, we won 98, and we got one in 2000 as a result of the decisions that I made at the end of 1996. So I'll just remind you again, just make sure you understand the difference between kindness and they see weakness in you. Just don't let them use you up. Because again, it will impact on everybody in your team, from your staff to your students. I had one of my players send me a cliche about two wolves, which I wanted to share with you about yourselves. And you can ask yourself the questions as I run through this. The cliche is, one evening an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside of people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all." He said, "One is evil. It is anger, it's envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." We've all got some of those traits, I've got no doubt at all. He said the other is good. The other wolf that lives inside of us, it is joy, it's peace, it's love, it's hope, sincerity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather. He said, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." Which one have you been feeding? Which one exists in your school? There's a wonderful line that says, you know, in that school environment and team environment, you know, that winners come together as a group and they solve their problems and they move forward. Losers come together in small groups and they bitch and whinge about the other players and the coaching staff. Which one's happening in your workplace? Which one is it? And which one is inside of you, the good, the evil? And I go back to where I started here this morning, is about the change. Not about changing only in the way that you educate, but in the change that you need to make to yourself. So you can create that environment. You see, you know, I haven't talked today about how you handle, you know, guys with bad behaviour, bad attitude, because my belief is if you create the environment, you get all the staff on side, you get them all working in one direction, they all follow your lead, then you'll solve half your problems anyway, without even having to talk to them. Because kids and adults are smart enough to realise about what's going down here, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. It's when you don't provide that leadership and that direction, whether it's within the family, whether it's within the team, or whether it's within the classroom, it doesn't happen. And they don't have boundaries, you know that. I mean, one of the great myths that we're getting thrown at us now is about the X, Y and the Z generation. It's absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. My parents never had TV. My parents never had electric power. We never had lights. You know, when I come along, TV had just started to come in. My parents didn't have a car. Now all my kids have got cars. Now we've all got about 5 TVs in the house. You know, so they listen to Xbox and they play other games, but the young men that I deal with are no different to the men I dealt with 20, 30 years ago. There's a way that we've got to play football. I can't compromise that. That's not for sale. I can't say, listen, we can tackle soft now, boys. That's going to win us games. You know, you can be sloppy with your passing. Hell, you don't have to turn up to train on time. That's not going to be an issue anymore. You can come on when you want to. And we'll all wait for you. Because you're a 17-year-old now. You're an X generation or the Y generation. Please. It's bullshit.